Direct from Fort Meade, Maryland, this is DINFOS Live.
Welcome back to another episode of DINFOS Live. I'm Major David J. Murphy, an instructor here at the Defense Information School, and I'll be your host for this month's episode. Every year, the Department of Defense honors the very best photojournalism, videography, graphic design, and writing produced by enlisted and civilian members of our armed forces with its annual Defense Media Awards. This awards program replaced the Thomas Jefferson Awards, the Visual Information Awards, and the VI Production Awards in 2016. In order to even compete at the DoD level, nominees need to have already won at the service level. So you know these are the winners are the best of the best. To help celebrate the awards program and these winners' achievements, we've invited 3 of them from this year's competition onto the program. Please welcome Specialist Matthew McIntosh, Military Photographer of the Year, Roland Ballack, Civilian Writer of the Year, and Staff Sergeant Jordan Martin, DoD Communicator of the Year. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Before we get to our guests, I just want to introduce our new social media monitor, Sergeant Angel Heraldez. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's an honor.
What are you working on here with the Defense Media Agency?
So currently working on with the Army production team on a new YouTube content series, just kind of going on a day in the life of the soldiers serving out there. And my specific project, we're going to be working on a day in the life of an Army doctor.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. When should viewers be looking out for that?
So the expected release date is July 27th as of right now, so we should be looking at that. And we're very excited to just drop it and get it out to everybody to see.
Nice, nice. Well, if you have any questions for our panelists, don't hesitate to leave them a chat in our Facebook or YouTube live streams, and Sergeant Heraldez might just read them on the air. All right, so let's get to introducing our panelists. Panelists, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little about yourself, your background in our career field, and a piece of content that you produced that helped earn you your award. We'll start with Staff Sergeant Martin.
Yeah, so I am stationed at Will Rogers Air National Guard Base in Oklahoma City at the 137th Special Operations Wing. My military background, I was actually active duty aircraft maintenance before I cross-trained in 2017 and joined the PA side of things and kind of made a transition to that new world. And yeah, when it comes to the projects that I put together, I had a package for the Communicator of the Year that kind of encompassed multiple products that kind of needed to be able to work in all different mediums, writing, photo, video. My package kind of leaned a little bit heavier in video, but I was really proud of the work that I put out. You know, stories that were more staged, kind of, you know, spoken word pieces, some things that were more packages that are typical that you might find, and just kind of a good variety of things, so that way it kind of stood out a little bit.
That's great. And Mr. Ballack? Mr. Ballack, can you unmute yourself? You're still muted. All right, we're having a little technical difficulties with... let's go to Specialist McIntosh.
Hey, good morning, everyone. From Schofield Bex, Hawaii. My name is Specialist Matthew Ngauta Tuimaleli Fano McIntosh. I'm born of Samoan and Scottish descent. I am an Army Public Affairs Mass Communication Specialist here with the 28th Public Affairs Detachment.
Okay, great. No, please go on.
I submitted a total of 18 images from a few events that I covered last year. To include the 2021 Best Ranger Competition in Fort Benning, Georgia, Exercise Talisman Sabre 21 in Australia, and a local capabilities exercise here in Hawaii.
That's great. Was there any particular project that stuck out to you as being one of your favorites?
No project, but I will say my experience in Talisman Sabre in Australia was an experience to remember.
Absolutely. Staff Sergeant Martin, was there any particular project that stuck out at you from your vast work that you submitted that was particularly notable?
Yeah, for me, the piece I put together with the help of Lieutenant Rico Hilliard, who was a pilot who was deployed at the same time as me, who he had kind of reached out to us about his interest in the Tuskegee Airmen as a child and how that kind of inspired him to join the Air Force and become a pilot. And so I worked with him to kind of create a story, a visual story that kind of showed and let him tell his own kind of experience and what led him to that. And we were able to kind of go out on a mission with him and kind of create a product that I think stood out, not just as a typical package or how, why we do what we do type thing, but really was unique to him and his story. And then coupled with visuals, I think it really kind of told his story in a unique way that maybe you don't expect to get coming out of a deployed environment. So I was really proud of that work.
That's great. Well, let's check back in with Mr. Bach. Is he able to talk to us? Okay, not hearing anything. Let's go on with talk about what you think set your work apart that helped garner the attention of the judges and ultimately win the award that you garnered. So you can talk about what set your work apart?
Yeah, in my case, I think I was able to really kind of focus in on the people that I was speaking to and create unique stories for them or work with them to tell their unique story, but also kind of find a balance of visuals with, good storytelling, whatever aspects that make that up. In my case, with a package that had to be all different products, I tried to be as well-rounded as I possibly could when submitting. And find products that showcased different skill sets, were not wholly similar, and just try to have some things that stood out on their own in unique ways individually. And I think that helped with when it comes to creating a package for this type of award.
That's great. Specialist McIntosh, how about you?
I believe it was a shot variety, not only in terms of shot type, but also in terms of color and the representation of the different branches. I was fortunate enough to capture images of not only the U.S. soldiers, but the Marines, the airmen, along with our partner nations troops like the Australian Defence Force and the British Royal Marines in different types of lighting environments. I submitted photos from Australia's golden hour, which is absolutely beautiful. I've also submitted brighter photos of soldiers in the beating sun, and also included a couple of dramatic dark background images in the portfolio. So I think that being able to show the judges that you're capable of capturing great images in different environments, it showcases your versatility. So I think that's what set me apart.
Yeah, so ultimately image variety is kind of what helped you stand out. That's great. That's great. During the production of this content you created, was there any point where you thinking like, wow, this is something really good. I could have potentially something on my hands that might actually win an award?
I was deployed with most of the content that I created for the package. And so at the time, you're not thinking about, awards per se, but you are kind of appreciating the content and have some pride in what you're doing. You realize that it stands out a little bit. But as soon as you don't have time to think about it for too long because you got to move on to the next thing and find the next story. It wasn't until kind of putting the package together and then feeling confident that I had something worth submitting. At that point, I was proud, still proud and excited to see if it had a chance. But yeah, in the moment, you're just thinking about creating a really good story and telling their story and getting commander's intent out there and then just moving on to the next thing.
I'm going to have to agree with Staff Sergeant Martin there. I wasn't thinking about the awards at all. Actually, initially, I didn't think my photos, I thought my photos were good, but I didn't think too much of them until I got the confidence and the faith from one of my NCOs, Staff Sergeant Tyrell Clement. It took him believing in me to give me the confidence I needed to submit. So,
absolutely. No, it's great to have those mentors out there. Absolutely. How did you come across your award-winning stories and subjects? Were they assigned to you, or did you go out and find them yourself?
In my case, it was a mixture of both. You know, we some of the products were stuff that, like in the case of the Created to Be video with Lieutenant Hilliard, he reached out to us and told us his story and said he thought maybe it might be interesting to us, and it became kind of a personal project. But the other subject matters, like the Metals Tech video that I submitted, you know, that one was me at a grip and grin at their unit, and then excuse me, and then reaching out and meeting this guy and really being interested in his story and the stuff that he was doing. And so I kind of came up, you know, I asked him if it was okay if I came and filmed him for the day, you know, and then other things are just mission. You're, especially in a deployed location, you're out there covering operations, and sometimes you get really good stories out of a normal operation, and you can capitalize on those moments. It isn't just a requirement to, you know, it is a requirement to be there, but it isn't just, you know, you don't think about that while you're out there. You're trying to create something that can stand on its own, even when it's a requirement.
I agree. I think it was a mixture of both. I'm blessed to have such an amazing leadership above me. You know, although I am assigned to every event that I take photos of, I think my leadership entrusts me and the other soldiers that I work with that creative liberty to just kind of go about and capture those images ourselves. Yeah, they provide us with a location, you know, a time, and even points of contact sometimes, but they give us pretty much free range to get as creative as we want to, as long as we meet the commander's intent.
No, that's great to hear. Great to hear. All right, let's check in with Mr. Ballack one more time, see if he can hear us now, or if we can hear him. No, not hearing anything, sir. All right, we tried. What?
How about now?
We got you. All right, woo! That's great.
Hey,
okay.
finally.
So, Mr. Ballack, just answer all the questions I asked no, I'm just kidding. Just tell us about yourself, your career, and the award-winning work that you produce, and then we'll get you back into the questions we were asking our other panelists.
Sure. Right now, my job title is photographer here at the 436th Airlift Wing Public Affairs. I'm a retired master sergeant with serving a little over 22 years. First 19 were aircraft maintenance on the C-5 Galaxy, and the last 2 years was first sergeant duties. Right now, the only formal training I have in public affairs is going to DINFOS and taking the basic public affairs specialist course, and just learning from everybody that's come through my office in the last 10 years.
That's great. And what was kind of the most impactful work that you submitted that you created as part of your award-winning package?
Out of the 5 stories that I submitted for my package, I did a story on Operation Allies Refuge, and the title of the story was Reach 806, A Shot in the Dark. And it was about 3rd Airlift Squadron C-17 crew that went on a mission in the early stages of that operation, and the events kind of started turning sideways, but they managed to get through it. And I just wanted to tell their story and get them to tell me everything about that mission and what it meant to them.
Right, absolutely. Well, you know, it's rare that we work alone, right? Obviously, when we're out there, we're actually producing and we're creating content, you're alone with the camera. But typically, though, there's a support system in place. So I want to know from you, how important was your command support in being able to cover these stories?
No, it's immensely important. You know, it takes a little bit of trust, or a lot of trust from your supervision to go out there and tell unique stories and maybe push the limits of what the standard is. And so it takes the level, it's kind of a back and forth. You have to earn their trust that you're capable of creating the content that is required and fits the commander's intent. But once you establish that trust, you know, you can go out and make some really interesting stuff. But sometimes you push the limits and you have to have that support. You have to have that trust from your supervision to go out, go to bat for you and kind of lead by example. And so I've been really lucky with all the content that I put out, you know, over my deployment. You know, I had a major luck out there. who really supported me and really enabled me to feel confident and feel like I could go out there and create the stories that I wanted to, and that it would still, find a way to work in the storytelling aspect when it came to our commander's intent. So it's super important.
Mr. Ballack? Mr. Ballack, Specialist McIntosh, how about you?
I'm going to have to agree with Staff Sergeant Martin. I think our command support is very important. I think it was very essential to my success personally. Though they help with organizing transportation, providing, points of contact, making schedules and whatnot, I do think they help most by communicating the importance of public affairs to the leadership, of the units we provide support to. When you have a first sergeant or, any high-ranking individual advocating for why, their soldier needs a spot on the bird, or why their soldier needs to be on the range during a live fire, it not only gives the soldier the confidence he needs to do his job, but it also creates awareness of why public affairs is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Ballack?
I believe that, having the support of the wing commander on down and everybody in my office has been extremely helpful, trying to get stories that I've written tweaked or looked at, reviewed before they go live on the web or in print here. It's just trying to get a good sense and trust between everybody, especially the wing commander, that public affairs is not out to make anybody look bad, but just to get them the story and recognize.
Okay, great. And with that, let's go to our social media. Sergeant Heraldez, what questions do we have for our panelists?
Okay, so this question is for Specialist McIntosh. What are some ways to approach a story or event as a photographer that helps you make your work stand out?
Okay, great question. Specialist McIntosh.
I think if that event took place before, say for example, a change of command ceremony, right? I say I've never done a change of command ceremony. I will go on to divots. There's a lot of great public affairs specialists out there. There's a lot of great photographers out there. So often I would like to go to a certain event and just search up, see how other photographers approach it in the past. If I see a photo I like, honestly, I would download it, open it up in Bridge, look at their settings, and kind of get behind the mind of that photographer. Try to think of the why. Why did he approach it this way? Why did he get so low? Why was his aperture, this way? So I think just going back and learning from all the photographers that already tackled that event, I think that's how I approach things, honestly.
Any other questions?
Yep. And then we got one that can go for both Mr. Ballack and Staff Sergeant Blankenship. So the question is, how would you advise people on becoming stronger writers?
Stronger writers. Start with Mr. Ballack.
I think for me and all those writers out there is try to capture a good story that you're interested in, or even if you're not interested in, learn from that experience and meeting people. Let them tell their story and just try to capture the tell you during the interview. Yeah. Personally, I like going into their office or work setting rather than have them come to me and sit in my cubicle and tell me their story.
Right.
My Beach 806 story, interviewing one of the pilots on that crew, really came up with a good quote, and I think that's what made that story very positive. And if I may, I'd like to read you that quote. And I think everybody out there, especially the writers, can relate to this. The pilot said, on our way in that night, and they were going to Kabul, our crew discussed the magnitude being asked. We discussed the two most important days in our career: the day that you raise your hand and volunteer to serve, and the day that you find out why. He went on to say, tonight is going to be one of those whys when you look back at your career. And being prior military, I had one of those experiences. After doing the interview 2 weeks later, it kind of hit home. I reflected upon my time, and one of the whys that I answered.
Yeah. And Staff Sergeant Martin, any thoughts on writing? You're muted.
Apologies. Yeah, no, definitely in the case of this package that I submitted, writing is part of it. I will say I think that writing is my weakest point, weakest trait when it comes to this package, but I've had a lot of really good mentorship, from my supervisors, my other airmen in my shops who are, stronger writers than me, and they've all been great resources, because writing, if you're more of a visual person like myself, writing can be super intimidating, but if you kind of lean on those other people to kind of critique your work, to help you through that process, it can become way less terrifying. And so I've been really lucky with the people that I work with who have been able to kind of guide me through that process and help me strengthen my abilities as a writer so that I can even have a chance at a package like this. So
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, winning must have been a monumental moment in all your lives when you found out. So I want you to take me back to that moment when you found out that you won. How did you find out, first of all, and how did it feel? Also, if you'd won anything in the past, how did this compare to that?
Yeah, I definitely, in my case, I'm a civilian during my day job as a traditional guardsman. So I found out while I was on set, I got a call from my supervisor. And so I had to it was one of those moments where you're super excited and you have to kind of hold it in though, because you have to go right back to work. So it was kind of like a muted response where I had to kind of keep the excitement down. And then get back to work, and then I could celebrate a little bit later. But this was a big one for me, and I've won the military videographer of the year last year for the guard stamp from the guard side of things. And to me that was always the pinnacle of awards, because as a guardsman you don't often think that you have a chance with the amount of quantity of content that you can put out as a traditionalist. Usually active duty folks get more opportunities to do that, to do stuff every single day of the week. But as a guardsman, I got lucky and I was deployed this year. And so I was able to kind of put out the amount of content needed to be able to pull stuff that I felt confident had a chance. So for me, it was super exciting. It's cool to kind of represent the Guard, not only my unit, but also the Guard as a whole, that we can create content that can stack up to the active duty folks.
How about you, Mr. Ballack?
When the wing commander and his entourage come down to the office and start talking about awards that other people within my office had won, and then when he says, finally, I knew that something big was going to happen, and sure enough, he told me that I won. It was the second time in my PA career that I've won. I won back in 2006, but this one meant a little bit more because I thought the 2016 award was by luck, but now that I've been with PA for 10 years, and that I had talent and the training to produce quality work.
That's great. Specialist McIntosh?
The moment was very surreal. I was in the motor pool just doing some paperwork. Not really sure what the task was, but I just remember my phone blowing up with a lot of different notifications, not only from my leadership, but from a lot of my friends from the schoolhouse, from DINFOS. And I just couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was overwhelmed. I was just extremely grateful, extremely humbled that I was even considered to be one of the finalists. And then I think I immediately called my father, and I just kind of broke down. It felt good to be seen, for your efforts to be validated. So yeah, I was extremely happy.
That's great. That's great. Obviously DINFOS does a great job of preparing its graduates with the tools it needs to succeed. And obviously you'll do many, many different types of shoots during your work at your units. But was there any outside education that you received or any work you did outside of the standard duty day that helped you hone your skills and ultimately win these awards?
I can say in my case, being a traditional guardsman, I was lucky enough after transitioning from active duty to go back to college, and I went to film school. So, I was able to really study the craft of filmmaking, study the aesthetic, the art, the theory, and get a lot of production experience, on sets, on productions that aren't your typical Air Force or DoD production. And I think it really helped me when the time came for me to deploy, because I was able to kind of apply those skill sets that I had learned in the classroom and on a normal civilian set to a deployed location. It helped me build my eye as a photographer, as a videographer, and as a storyteller. So I think I got lucky with that. I think it's one of the greatest things about being in the Guard is that you get to live in two different worlds, and it's awesome when they get to accentuate each other.
I have no training in public affairs or the writing career field. In fact, in junior high school, English was one of my least favorite subjects. So once I got into public affairs, I had the opportunity to go to DINFOS and learned everything about writing. But that's about it. On the photography side, I've had more experience on that. But as far as being named, Civilian Writer of the Year, just my DINFOS training and all the great instructors that I had over there taught me how to write. And luckily, I've been lucky enough to win some awards.
Yeah, exactly. Twice now. Specialist McIntosh?
I think, other than DINFOS, I didn't have any additional training unless you count YouTube. Me and my family have a joke. We call it YouTube University.
Yeah.
And so I think other than that, I don't have any formal training. But just growing up, I always had a camera near me, whether it was relatives or the churches. I just always had it with me. So it was a natural fit to come into public affairs on the Army side of things.
That's great. That's great. Is there anyone inside the career field, either inside or outside the military, who personally inspires you to succeed or that you personally look up to?
Yeah, definitely. I got the privilege when I deployed to work with active duty PA folks, and that was something I hadn't experienced before as a guardsman. And I got lucky to work with a now Tech Sergeant Kayla White, who was extremely inspirational as a PA person. And when she went out and did stories, she kind of really had a next level of compassion for her subjects and an understanding of their trepidations, their fears, and being in front of a camera or being interviewed. And so I was really able to kind of study her process and learn from her, and kind of try to apply that to my own work, and have a next level of compassion, because when we put a camera in front of these people, and tell their story, they might be fearful. They may have had a bad PA experience in the past, or they are not sure if they think we won't make them look good. But our goal is to always tell their story as authentically as possible, and it's never a goal to make them look bad. And it takes a little bit of trust building. And so when I worked with her, I really got to understand that skill set and how important it is as a PA storyteller to build that trust and have compassion for your subject matter.
For me, my father's been my mentor, and wanted to make him proud with my writing skills, and I know that he is. But also, if there's like one person on the military PA side that I would name, because there's so many that I've come across over the 10 years, 11 years that I've been writing, I would have to say it was one of the public affairs officer in my shop at the time. He's now retired, Major Tony Richardson. He saw something in me that and offered me the opportunity to go to DINFOS and learn a new skill. So I would say my career as a writer and winning these awards.
I think someone who immediately pops into my head in terms of the public affairs inspiration is currently Staff Sergeant Tybell Clement. He actually won the Army Communicator of the Year, and he's just been an inspiration in every way. I think he brings this lightheartedness to our career field without sacrificing professionalism. Not only does he, excel in the public affairs aspect, but even in the soldier things and PT, he's there encouraging you. Hey, run a little bit faster, Mac. You got this, Mac. Believing in me when it came to the submitting for the photographer of the year. He's been calling me that before I even submitted. So I think someone like that, an NCO like that, is really good to have in your corner, and I just want to thank him.
That's great. That's great to have that level of encouragement for sure. Let's go back to social media. Sergeant Geraldes, what do we got?
All right. So the question is, we talked about your mentorship, your mentors. Now, what is the lessons that you want to pass on?
What lessons do you all want to pass on?
Oh, that's a tough one, but definitely. I think there's a level of you need to care about the job that we're doing and realize the impact that we have as storytellers. I think it's easy to maybe get into a shop and do the bare minimum or get by and clock in, clock out. But I think in PA that it should be a different mentality. We're doing something really special. We get to tell stories. We get to shape, history essentially for the military and for the members of our units. And so to have that compassion and really care about the work you do, it may be tough to continue studying the craft beyond clocking out, but I think it's really important to study the art form, study other people doing it on civilian side and a military side, and really try to strengthen your skill sets as a storyteller. And sometimes, like I said, it goes beyond your day, your shift. You really need to kind of study this craft and build skill sets that go beyond the basic minimum. And I think it'll really kind of step up the quality of your work once you do so.
This is probably one of the most difficult questions that have been asked, but in preparation for this, I came up with a list of things that I keep in my mind at all times. And one of them is get out of the office and look for stories or photo opportunities. It'll open up your doors to really good, interesting stories and meet great people. Take assignments that are out of your comfort zone. Being an aircraft maintainer, I could go out on the flight line every day and write something about aircraft maintenance, but you need to go out and do other stories other than what's in your comfort zone. Also, some of these photo assignments I've had, grip and grins or promotion ceremony photo assignments, Seems like I always bump into somebody that has something to say, and it turns out to be a great lead for a story. Let's see what are the other ones that I have. Having the ability, as a photographer, having the ability to take photos and putting those photos with my story has really helped me capture the emotion or the key points of writing a story. Having a good relationship and trust within your editing chain helps narrow down the key points and any errors grammatically or technically, check for flow and all that. That is also very important to me. So I've been lucky in the last, 5 years or so to have a great team that support me in those aspects. Listen to what the interviewer's saying, the person you're interviewing has to say. I like listening, standing back and just let them tell their story. And sometimes they need a little coaxing, but to get them started. But once they're on a roll, it's just amazing what you can capture and come up with some great quotes and some content. For me, also, if I know I'm going to do a story that is very technical, I'll do some research prior to doing the interview or actually going on location to take photos or something like that tells the story. So those things have worked for me. I know there's always room for improvement, and I'll probably be adding more to the list or narrowing it down some more. So, good luck to all the writers out there who are considering, going up for an awards package. Hope 2022 is your year, and good luck.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with both of the panelists. I think Staff Sergeant Martin says something that I hold very dear. You got to have a certain amount of passion for this craft. You got to love it on days where it doesn't seem so lovable. Which brings me to, I guess, my point is to not be so complacent. I feel like, a lot of times when we keep doing these mundane tasks or what seems mundane, for example, things like change the command ceremonies or grip and grins, right? You've seen it a dozen times. You take photos of it a dozen times, but instead of thinking, oh, it's going to be the same shots, why don't you get lower than you did before? Why don't you get closer than you did before? Climb the tree to get a shot. I've done that a couple times. I probably look silly doing it, but I got images from different perspectives, I think that's one thing I will say is like change it up. It doesn't have to be boring just because of how other people's approached that event in the past, So and that kind of ties back into that passion aspect of it. If you really love your job, you go find a shot, and the work you put in after hours. I know I made a joke calling it YouTube University, but I'm on YouTube learning different things all the time, looking at different tutorials, how to, be a true subject matter expert in your art. So I think that's the advice I would give, honestly.
Yeah, no, I love YouTube. I actually learned a new skill last night watching YouTube because I needed to do something in the video editing program. And I do also want to say that I think it's interesting, Staff Sergeant Martin, that you said you were an aircraft maintainer. And I know in our previous conversations, Mr. Balak, you said you were also an aircraft maintainer. So there you go. If you got anybody watching the program who's an aircraft maintainer who's interested in our career field, send them this video. See that you can become an award winner. But I know we have another question from social media, so hit me.
Yeah, so this question here is from Effie Snyder. And the question is, what do you hope to see next in your PA military career? What is your next goal after winning these awards?
Okay, what's next? What's for the future?
You know, for me, it's just to continue finding unique stories and to try to, you know, develop my skill set as a photographer or videographer. Also, develop my writing skills if I can. You know, that was definitely I've always felt like it was my weakest skill set. So, you know, try to make myself even more well-rounded. And then just, you know, find that balance of as a guardsman between civilian and traditional, and continue creating content that can stand out and as a, you know, keep up with all you guys active duty guys, and try to stand alone.
For me, I think the next step in my PA career is I'd like to learn how to do video.
Okay.
I've got the photography and the writing portion down, but interesting videos is probably going to be my focus for the next year or so. I'd like to get that skill down to an art like my panelists have done, and see what happens.
Okay, great. Specialist McIntosh?
I think one of my goals right now is to be a military communicator of the year. Trying to be like you said, Sergeant. So, what do you call it? Just to be recognized not only for photography but for all aspects of our career field. I think that would be the ultimate goal of mine. Yeah,
there you go. That's great. Let's go ahead and move on to our next question. Obviously, you know, the Defense Media Awards is a great program. DINFOS is a great institution. But have you all tried to compete outside of the DoD award systems? Have you tried competing any civilian awards?
Yeah, you know, I'm lucky as a guardsman that, you know, I'm doing this stuff kind of as a civilian, and there's a little bit more opportunities for me to kind of push some of my work out there. So I've competed in film festivals and you know, across the state and across the country. And then I've been able to get a few awards on a national level for a few different filmmaking institutions that I'm really proud of. But a lot of those institutions and awards and programs are available to the active duty side. You don't have to just be a traditionalist to, you know, or a guardsman working in a civilian side to access them. You know, there's so many different organizations that when they find out that you're military or DoD and you're creating content for the Department of Defense, it's super exciting for them because it's such a unique, I think, avenue and unique world. And you can really reach out to those programs and submit your own content. And, you know, like you said, YouTube University, there's so much you can make that you can study the form and create content that isn't just military related, and use that skill set that you're developing and meet other people out there that are doing the same thing. I think it just makes you a stronger storyteller as a whole, and it's going to be great for the military.
As a writer, I haven't competed outside the DoD, but as a photographer back in 2009, I competed in the Maryland, Delaware, DC Press Association contest for editorial content and placed second in a photo series, Division F non-dailies under 10,000 in circulation here for the base newspaper. And that's my only award that I've won outside the DoD.
I have been competed in other competitions in regards to photography, but I will say that our team is actually submitting for an Emmy at the moment. The film is titled Pamana, Filipino American Soldiers, Stories of Heritage, and you can actually find it on Divots right now. I just kind of want to shout out PFC Kai Rodriguez and specialist Darby Colson. We was all able to, unfortunately enough, to tell the story of 3 Filipino American soldiers that we came into contact with during exercise Salak Nib in the Philippines. So other than the Keith L. Ware and the DoD, that's the only competition I ever competed for.
Okay, great. What would you tell the military communicator who is perhaps hesitant to enter the competition because they don't feel their work is up to snuff? Would you still tell them to try and compete?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. I mean, you obviously you're going to be your own harshest critic, when you're looking at your work and you don't think you have a shot. I did the exact same thing with this award. I looked at all the active duty side and all the great content they were creating, and my first thought was that there's just no chance. There's no chance that I could keep up with active duty. They're doing this every day, day in, day out. They have so much more access. And I didn't, you hesitate a little bit. But if you're putting the work in and you're creating stuff and you really care about the work that you do, like that, it's gonna show in the work that you create, and so you should put yourself out there, and reach out to your mentors, reach out to your other fellow service members and get critiques from them and find out what they're doing and what they think. And I think you'll put together a really solid package, and just go for it. I don't think it doesn't hurt you either way. And I think maybe losing can be tough, but if anything, you get to see everybody else's work and figure out what works and then compete the next year. If you're going to put a long career in the military, you've got plenty of time to learn and get yourself to where you want to be. So I definitely think it's worth submitting, and you should, get past that initial fear. It'll be worth it in the end.
For me, I would say submit your work, whether it's photography or writing, video, because the only way you're going to find out where you stand among your peers is to see if your work is good enough to be recognized. And there's been years where I've submitted stuff and didn't win anything, and some years were very plentiful as far as winning awards. But you need to take the time and find someone that you can pick their brain on how you're doing as far as your work. Just latch onto that person, absorb all their knowledge, read about the subject, just learn as much as you can.
I absolutely agree. I think you should go for it. Just to speak from personal experience, I honestly didn't think too much of the photos. I thought they were great. I thought I just did my job. It took, when I say it took the faith from my leadership, specifically Staff Sergeant Tyrell Clement, that really pushed me to go for it. And you never know. I think. Yeah, I just think you should go for it.
Well, in the words of Shakira, try everything. Did any of you have any mentors that helped look over your work before you submitted them for competition?
Yeah, definitely. In my shop, we're a small little guard unit. There's sometimes between 2 and 4 people only in our shop. But what we lack in size, we make up in quality, because everybody in my shop is either has their degree in journalism and in media, in media relations, and they all kind of complement each other. And so I've had, whether it be my senior NCO Andrew Lamro, or soon to be Chief Lamro, my NCOIC Tech Sergeant Waltemeyer, they are already award winners themselves, and they are already super talented on a civilian side and a military side. And so I feel confident any day I go to them to give them my work and say, what do you think about it? And they're going to give me honest feedback. They're going to give me, constructive feedback on what I can do to make it better. And they have the background and the awards themselves to where I can trust them and say they know what they're talking about, and I can make the changes I need to and adapt and learn from them. So they've been great mentors in getting me where I am today.
At the moment, I have 2 people in my editing chain and in the office that have reviewed my work and gave me suggestions. And those 2 are Senior Master Sergeant Alex Griffin and Master Sergeant Chuck Broadway. They've added their input to my stories and gave me the motivation to go out and get a good story and make it better, and just to have fun with it. And if I keep doing that and they keep, pushing me, I'm sure that I'll have a good package for 2022. But those two recently have just helped me tremendously, and I owe them, part of this award. In fact, my whole PA team, this is for them. I was just lucky enough to, go out and get the story or the photo or both, and capitalize on it.
I think anyone who has worked with me before knows how indecisive I can be when it comes to selecting those photo selects from your batches, right? I don't want to say goodbye to any photos, but I think certain leaders like Sergeant First Class Daniel Carter and Staff Sergeant F.E. Mayhew at the 28th pad with me, they helped me select my photos. What do you call it? They tell me what's good, what's bad, and they're clear. I think I need that guidance from them. So whenever I need somebody to look over my photos, I go to them. And also go to all the other soldiers at the pad. We're a small unit, not as small as Staff Sergeant Martin's with 3, but I do lean on everyone else's eyes, a different perspective, regardless of their rank, to kind of help me, just to kind of help me select those photos.
That's great. That's great. Well, gentlemen, our time is coming to an end. So last final question, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would just tell everyone who's thinking about, putting their awards package in to really, care about the work you're doing. Go outside of the wire, go outside of what your job is and explore the subject matter, learn about it, study it, and make this part of your being. It's so, what we can do as PA storytellers is really profound. It makes an impact. It clearly can move the dial, and you have the ability, no matter what your rank is. I think PA is special about that. From the lowest rank to the highest rank, you can have an impact and create something that really showcases the amazing work that our service members are doing, and kind of humanize them, and tell their authentic story. So just keep doing it, keep studying, keep reaching out for mentors, and pick their brains and find people like the people on this panel to learn from, because there's so many great storytellers out there. And I think you're going to be really happy that you did, and you're going to be, maybe one day on this panel talking and telling people about your story.
I couldn't agree more with what he just said. My only thing that I'd like to add to that is go out, get out of the office, and go look for that photo or story that you want to tell, and just have fun with it. It's not strictly an 8 to 4 job, but sometimes you have to make sacrifices and change your work habits a little bit to get that story or photo. It's truly rewarding when you see your name on the winners list, and the only way to find out how rewarding it is do the work, have fun.
I absolutely agree. I know it's cliche, I know it sounds corny. I'm probably messing up this quote, but it goes something like, success comes when opportunity meets preparation, right? So just like everything we stated before, just kind of prepare yourself, because you never know when that opportunity arises. You don't know how long that window of opportunity is. So we call it take advantage of every single shoot. And just constantly want to improve, constantly strive to get better.
Absolutely, and hopefully all of you listening will strive to get better, and you'll be on our program next year. Of course, with Mr. Ballack, I'm sure he'll be back, right? Got to get that third time, right? Triple crown, three-peat. All right, well, thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in our show. We really appreciate it. And we hope you will join us next month on July 27th as we actually take DINFOS Live on the road to Joint Base Anacostia Bowling. We really mean it this time. Also, don't forget that DINFOS Live is also a podcast, and you can download it on your podcatcher of choice. Just search for DINFOS Live. Well, that's it for our show this month. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you all next month.